See, I've been waiting. Waiting on that time. Feel me if you've been waiting on yours. That moment, it's close. It's close. It's close.
Yeah.
Tired of living day to day like everything's alright.
Welcome back, everybody, to America's favorite DC-based MMA and boxing podcast. My name is Joe Gilpin, the one and only, joined by the favorite co-host, Mr. Jesse Rivas. Talk to the people, Mr. Jesse Rivas. How you doing this week?
It is I, the total repackaged Jesse Rivas. I'm back. I'm excited. How are you doing, Marcus?
DJ Marcus in the booth.
I'm doing good. How are you guys today?
Doing pretty well. This is an exciting First of all, sorry that we were off last week. Unavoidable. We are back this week, and the schedule, looking forward, every Friday, that sweet, sweet audio release. It's nice to release into the people's ears. You know what I mean? I like it. Jesse Rivas, we were talking a little bit before we got on the mic, before we hopped on the sticks. You recently got one of those like genealogical tests where you what did you send into them? I know what I want to say you sent in, but I want to get it right. You know what I mean?
They just get your fluids. They get saliva. They get your blood. They get your semen. It's just like the regular stuff.
They're like, send us a picture of your asshole. Like, they're just asking for stuff that obviously, like, what's your credit score? Okay, you're at least a little white with that credit score. I'm going to start doing that and just, like, taking shit like that. Like, how many parking tickets did you get last year? Okay, you're at least 15% Hispanic.
Oh, man.
So I got the results now, and I found out that
By the way, can I freak you out a little bit? The government can subpoena that company and get your DNA.
Yep.
They don't need to get like a court order anymore.
Are we murdering people now?
I mean, we might have to. I don't know. We're murdering every single episode of audio entertainment here on the Fighter's Block.
But bump.
I meant that. I mean, I think we're doing a good job.
Yeah, we're doing a great job.
So you got these results. What's the results? I want to know.
All right, so I am
because
officially
boxing, honestly, boxing is one of the few places where you can still be like wildly problematic. You can be like, look at that Russian dude. He fights like a Mexican, and everybody's like, hell yeah. Like people don't get mad at you when you say that.
They'll call you the Russian Mexican.
Yeah, we have like one of the biggest stars in the sport.
Triple G.
Everybody's like, oh, he's a Kazakh guy, but he fights like a Mexican. Oh my God, look at him, the little jumping bean. It's crazy. And I'm listening to this, and it hits my white ears, and I know I'm supposed to feel uncomfortable, but part of me after a while is like, he does fight like a yeah. Like, I can feel myself getting radicalized. All right.
I feel like boxing is one of those sports that's the most diverse.
Oh, absolutely. It's so global. Oh my God. Yeah. And it's the only sport that scores high in Black and Latino viewership, which like every sport wishes they had. Every sport has one. You know what I mean? But no sport has both. Like soccer has the Latino, but it doesn't have
football has a
particularly
huge
high black
Latino
watch.
audience.
Football does?
Yes.
American football or football?
American football.
I would have to look into that. My understanding was it was not particularly high, at least not as high as the population percentage. You know what I mean?
It's
if they're
so
like
high
X, then
that they now play it in Latin America.
Like they like show it, or they
the
like
Redskins and the Cowboys have big fan bases in Latin America.
even the Redskins.
Yeah, even well, the reason the Redskins is for because
I can imagine the Cowboys are definitely the bad guys in this situation.
Yeah. Genuinely.
They're there like, well, one team's wildly racist, the other team killed us all. I'm really not sure who to vote for here. Fuck.
The reason
that is a great metaphor for every presidential election when you're not a white person. Like, who's gonna fuck me less on this deal?
There you go.
Eddie Bravo one time was quoted on saying this. He said that Mexicans love football. We just don't get that big to play it.
Yeah.
So that's kind of like the whole thing. It's like, and like in Central America, the reason the Redskins and Cowboys are so big is because a lot of their families come from the D.C. area, like D.C., Texas, and like those are like where like big populations of Central Americans exist.
All right, bet.
I think the Raiders are big too. So I think it's just cool jerseys.
They just like people out here wilding. That's why anytime somebody likes the Raiders, I'm like, okay. I get what's gonna happen. We might burn down a 7-Eleven together one day.
Yeah.
Together one day. Okay. Jesse Rivas, you have some test results for us.
Yeah, so I am 10% West African.
Oh shit!
West
so that's
Africa.
like Ghana and shit, right?
Yeah.
No, that's that is West.
That's
it is
like
West Africa. I keep forgetting.
It's like the Africa I would go to if I had to go to Africa. You know
it's
what
like
I mean?
Nigeria. It's like Cameroon.
Or is that like South Africa?
No, you would go to East Africa.
I would go to East Africa.
Yeah,
Why would I go to East Africa?
That's the Middle East, closer to the Middle East.
Well, that's like Egypt and stuff,
Yeah.
right? Yeah. No, I thought like West was nice Africa. Am I wrong on that? This is how white people end up dead. What is going on here?
All of it's bad Africa. It's just
Listen,
a
but
matter
some
of where
is better.
you go.
Listen, some is better.
Some's better. I'm not a racist or a nationalist in that way, but I do. There are some.
Listen, I've been to New York. I can walk down 142nd. I can't walk down 149th. I know some things.
Yeah.
I know there's some areas that like watch out. I know there's some areas where like I get like the Lion King speech about like we don't go there.
Yeah, it's dark over there. We don't go there.
It's dark there. We don't go there.
Being that I'm 10% black, can I start talking about being a black man in America?
No.
This is always the test I have, and I was running this test earlier this week, is if you said a racial slur from that group, would I feel uncomfortable? And I call this the Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson test, because I was trying to figure out really seriously and legitimately, like, is Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson black? He is half black by genealogy. His father is black. His mother is part of the Samoan NOI tribe.
Yes.
I know way too much.
I know all these things, too.
But part of me was like, okay, that's his genealogy, but then there's also something cultural to speak of. And the question I came back to was like, if I heard The Rock say the N-word, would it be like bad or weird? And what I came back to and what I ultimately decided was, it doesn't matter because I wouldn't say anything because I'm too scared of The Rock.
So he's automatically black in that manner.
Yeah, no, yeah, he gets it.
Much like any other black man saying the N-word, you just go, okay, yeah. He did it. Yeah.
Like I'm the judge, by the way. Like I'm the one that's like, I don't think you should be. Excuse me, sir. If I did this test, and I do want to hear the rest of the results, it would send me back a white piece of paper. Like it wouldn't even have the results on it. Would just be 100% white, and that would be a
That
metaphor.
happens to a
like,
lot of people.
Yeah, I bet. Me.
My coworker, he was telling me about how like exotic he was. He was like, look, it seems here that I'm mixed. I'm mixed Scottish, British,
Welsh, like all this, yeah. More Scottish
and
turns
Irish,
out.
and I was like, those are all white countries that are very close. You're not even like Eastern European. Like there was nothing. There was no Mediterranean. Like you were just 100%.
You may as well be descendant from people who were not able to walk. They couldn't go anywhere.
Yeah.
What else? What else is on there?
I'm 20.7% East. What is it? Southeast Asian.
Southeast Asian. You did it! Oh my God!
So I could be Thai.
I feel like playing the Celebrate Good. I feel like you're 20% Asian through osmosis alone.
Yeah, I could be part Thai. Muay
You just
Thai.
absorbed
I love Muay
it.
Thai.
You just absorbed it over time. If you eat enough Asian pussy, eventually you can be up to 20% Asian. Is what we have learned today.
You are what you eat.
You are what you eat, and he is 20% Asian. Oh my God! We are learning.
I'm 25% Native American.
Really?
Yeah.
No shit.
Yeah.
All right. I literally thought that no one in America was more than like an eighth Native American.
Except for the
you
Native
know,
Americans.
except for like literally Native Americans. There's like people like who get drunk and are just like, oh my God, no, I am part of the Omaha tribe, but like, you know what I mean? Like, they're very clearly not. And then there's like full on like purebred Native American.
Oh yeah.
I am 3% British.
All right.
All right.
Which three?
It's a
But I'm
low end.
30
Not the good one.
But I'm 32%. They just grouped the countries together, which is Spain, Portugal, France. So basically like the Mediterranean, Italy.
Anybody who was taking people over in the 1500s.
Yes.
Yeah, like
That's
that.
you.
They just kind of grouped that together. So they
The previous winners of wars.
the previous winners of war. Yeah.
Is there any Salvadorian in there? Because you are the king of Salvadorian strong style. There should be at least. Have we been lying? Is there anything in there that says you are actually Hispanic?
The remaining 10% is Iberian.
The fuck is Iberian?
I looked it up. It's like North Africa and like that area between Spain and Portugal.
What I'm hearing is a no, Jesse. You are not a Hispanic person.
You're not Hispanic at all.
We have made a lot of problematic jokes with the understanding that we were covered under your indemnity. This is a problem that I didn't anticipate.
Wow.
Well,
This is like Marcus coming to us later like, no, just turns out I had a lot of chocolate on my face, not black. Just covered in chocolate
covered
for
in
many years.
Milk and dark chocolate.
the
Took
thing
a
is-
shower today. Turns out very white. Changing my name to Gregory. Not even Greg. Gregory. Say the whole thing. I'm going into management.
So quick recap. I am 45.7% either Asian or Native American. I'm 35% some kind of white. I am 10%
Jesus
black.
Christ, that's already like 70%. Jesse,
and
what the fuck is this?
10% Iberian.
I feel like I've been lied to you.
I don't even know what I had to Google Iberian because I have no idea. So
How many people do you think have like gotten these test results back? Like, no, I have a tattoo that says like Chile. Like, there needs to be some Chilean on there somewhere.
I'm not South American anywhere.
Yeah.
well, the thing about it is like Latino isn't a race; it's an ethnicity.
Yeah. I think that's
So-
the Native American.
Yeah, I think that's the Native American is where I get the Latino side.
But how much was the Native American?
25%.
Okay. But again, the Asian and the Native American mixing together would look like Jesse Rivas.
I have a fucking Rachel Dolezal over to
do?
my left.
Well,
This is some fucking bullshit.
Iberians.
I have Ricardo Dolezal to my direct left. I feel bad, if I'm being honest. If I can be honest with you, DJ Marcus, and the podcast will only be us now. See yourself out, sir. We do talk about fighting eventually. I apologize.
Oh man, that's
Iberian is kind of black, so I guess I'm 20% in a way.
it's
Okay, are
20%
we
black.
really? Is that what
It's
we're
like I'm
worried
rounding
about?
up.
Is that what we're worried about, Mr. Rivas? Okay.
I want to be able to start sentences as a black man, but as a white guy, I think.
You can start whatever sentence you
But
want
as an
to.
Asian, I
This
think.
is part of like, guys are always like, "Oh, I wish I was allowed to say." Whereas like, you can say literally anything you
Yeah.
want to.
But as a
You
Native
You have to
American,
accept the consequences
Oh, yeah.
for what you say.
Someone hitting you in the face can happen.
Yeah. And you have to be man enough to be like, got it, moving on. Accept as a consequence, a probability, some would say. Not even a possibility, a probability. Why do white people want to say it so bad? Anyway, this is a Fight Sports podcast. We are going to talk about fight sports. Jesse Rivas. We were off for some important fights. If you want to just touch on them real quick. Stipe Miocic turned back the hype train that was Francis Ngannou. We learned that Francis Ngannou is actually just a giant black Sage Northcutt, it turns out.
Yes.
You know what I mean?
so he will be playing Drago's
Yes, 100%.
shadow.
He will be playing Drago's Black Sun. That's where they should go. They should give Drago a Black Sun.
Like they did Kurt Angle.
Yeah, exactly. They should really get. Oh my God, I called that too. By the way, a week out. As soon as they said something was going to happen, I said they're going to give Kurt Angle a Black Sun. Just watch. I said it as a joke, but I was right.
Well, I heard he prefers black women.
Oh no shit. He's only married white ones though.
Yes.
He's married to a very
Caucasian woman.
a very nice Italian lady. Let's say.
Yes.
Big titties.
I mouthed it for a reason. Kurt Angle's got to bust through this wall like the fucking Kool-Aid man. Start belly-to-belly suplexing all of us. We can't stop it. I can't stop the hot tag.
I'm just gonna turn on Facebook Live and watch. And
Oh,
then
I
wait for my
completely
turn.
get that. No, I understand. I do not blame you. So we saw that. We saw Errol Spence punched another ticket on his way to superstardom.
Damn, he looked impressive.
He looked amazing. He looked so good. Errol Spence continues to look the part. A little bit of a heel turn, right? Like, maybe not the heel turn, but like the start of a heel turn, I felt like, for Errol Spence.
It is very terrifying to be Keith Thurman right now because
he's so focused on Keith Thurman too, which he should be. Everybody in that division should be focused on Keith Thurman because when Keith Thurman comes back, there's blood in that water, and everybody should be looking to chomp.
he's got to impress against Jesse Vargas. And people are saying Jesse Vargas is not. I mean, that's his tune-up fight, but that's still a tough
Vargas
fight.
is a tough motherfucker. There's easier tune-up fights. Is one of the Walsh brothers not available, or one of the Smith brothers, or whatever their name is? I mean, come on. We could, there's got to be something.
Look at his possibilities. All right, so he has his tune-up fight with Jesse Vargas, which is a tough fight. Then he has a rematch clause with Danny Garcia, who he barely won. His number one contender is Sean Porter, who he barely beat. Then
Sean Porter, by the way, this is how close the fight with Sean Porter was. 12 rounds, every round within 10 punches
Wow.
of each other. How crazy is that?
That is crazy.
No pulling away the entire fight.
And then his other options are Errol Spence, because they're under the same promoter, same manager, same
Easy fight to make.
yeah.
Easy fight to make.
same network, and his option is like he can take a unification over any of his mandatories or
Yes.
rematch clauses, or the
And
winner.
if the money is right,
Yeah.
they can make any fight happen. You know what I mean? And then that's not to say, oh, shit, Terrence Crawford wants a piece. We're going to give it to Terrence Crawford or something.
Crawford versus Horn. He has the option to fight Crawford versus Horn.
Yeah. I mean, there's so much going on.
I know you just skipped and said it was Crawford, but I think
I mean,
Horn's
come
going
on.
to take him to the hornet's nest.
So it could be Thurman versus Crawford. That's exciting. And so, yeah, Errol Spence, came out and really he stamped himself at the right time because now there's a lot of churn in this division about what's that what's that number one spot going to be? Who's Thurman going to fight? Errol Spence, man.
You know what's funny? I was hearing through the grapevine that Lamont Peterson never looked better, and there was rumors that he might have been, taking some Mexican supplements to make sure that he was ready and prepared for
to
Errol
really
Spence.
just like get that little edge of power that Lamont Peterson is famous for, right?
And I mean, if you looked at his body before the fight, he looked phenomenal. I've never seen him in such great shape, and it didn't help because Errol Spence is just that damn
Errol Spence
good.
ran through him. Spence ran through him. So that was most of what we missed as we were gone. We can talk a little bit about what happened last weekend. We saw Derek Brunson. Derek Brunson is Mr. Killer Be Killed. You know what I
Yes.
mean? He is Mr. Knockout or get knocked out in the first round. He's almost like Chris Lieben in a way. Like a
Yeah.
smarter Chris Lieben, but it ends up the same fucking way where just he's going to come out. It's because of the way he closes distance, I think, because he rushes so much. And I was actually I had this in my breakdown, but we weren't able to do the episode. It's because of the way he closes distance. He's always leaving one side open. It's never the same side, but if he's protecting one side, he's not protecting the other side at all. And so guys who are really on it are able to time that and make him pay for it coming in. And he feels very comfortable rushing. Guys who aren't able to time it, he rushes them, knocks them out because he does hit very hard. Jacare knocks him out in the first round.
So he's Hail Mary all the time.
He is. He doesn't. I don't know if he knows he is, but he is. And so, Derek Brunson takes another knockout loss. He's got to start. He's got to clean
blocking.
it up. Something. Take him down. You're a 2-time Division II champion. Come on. It was a very entertaining knockout on a pretty boring night of fights. That was, I believe, the lowest rated UFC on Fox card ever.
Wow.
Which is saying something. UFC is having some ratings problems.
Really?
We also had a little bit of boxing as well. Nothing too impressive. We had Matisse fight in a terribly boring fight against Kiram from Thailand. And the knockout was interesting. The highlights were great, but if you actually saw the fight, you were literally trying not to fall asleep before the knockout came out.
It was really bad. I was watching it. I did end up fast forwarding a little bit of parts just because there was nothing happening. Why am I gonna? I don't want to watch two guys. If you're gonna have two guys staring into each other's eyes, that's cool. But just start playing that song "Endless Love." You know what I mean? This endless love
But
over and over.
I think the reason is I think that he hasn't improved on the same flaws he had against Postal. He has a problem when he's the smaller man.
Yeah, against Kiram, that's Kiram's enormously big. Did you see Kiram was reportedly sniffing on some Tiger Balm in the corner? This is an old school Southeast Asian trick. It's basically like smelling salts. It's a stimulant that you can sniff, and it hypes you up for a little while. And they had him in the corner, just like very obviously sniffing Tiger Balm, and just like getting stimulated. It's illegal. And they were just like being pretty fucking blatant about it. But nobody ever really called him on it,
Speaking of calling on, do you think that he really got knocked out with the jab at the end? Because he got the first knockdown that knocked him silly. Then he got back up. Then he got hit with the jab. And then he kind of like found his placing and fell.
I think it was a knockout. I think it was the right call to stop the fight.
It was the right call to stop the fight. But do you think that caused him to get knocked down a second time?
What are you asking me? Did the first knockdown cause the second one?
Because the announcers were accusing him of wanting to get out of there after the first knockdown.
Oh, no, I don't think he was in his right mind. I think he had been knocked down and hurt very badly. I don't think it was a conscious decision from him, like, let's just lay down, this isn't going my way. I'm about to get knocked out.
I think he was deeply concussed, so the jab was just enough to...
No, yeah, I agree.
That's what it looked like to me.
He was fucked up. That's why I didn't even understand the question. Like, no, he was fucking about to get knocked out, and then somebody hit him with a punch and almost knocked him out. Like, yeah, that tracks. That makes sense.
Yeah, that's why I think there's a big issue with a lot of these announcers who've never boxed.
You have to at least spar. You know what I mean? You have to get in there and you have to spar, and you have to, walk out of there with your teeth feeling loose once, at least once.
Yeah, because that affects, like, fans when they're watching it. Because I'm watching, I'm like, no, he was very concussed.
And but there's a lot of people that don't.
Yeah,
there's a lot of people who have never stepped in there.
So Max Kellerman and Jim Lampley and all of them, it's like, you're a journalist.
You should know.
Yeah.
They should know.
I sometimes feel like Roy Jones should step up more.
Joe Rogan does this a lot too. Joe Rogan will call out fighters for like, oh, he wasn't. He could have done a little bit more there. I just don't think he's trying hard tonight. It's like, shut the fuck up, bro. He really does annoy me, and I know he gets on a lot of the fighters' nerves as well, because you have a Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu black belt, you have a black belt in karate, you have all this shit, and you've never tested yourself like that. Don't bad talk the fighters, maybe bad talk the technique, but don't talk down the spirit of the fighters. Don't talk down the character of the fighters unless it's something really extraordinary and something really wild happening. Then maybe. But he does it every show. If you listen every show on commentary, he's going to talk about at least one guy is quitting, or at least one guy is doesn't really care. One guy is being boring on purpose. Fuck off. It's really hard.
Yeah.
It's really hard to win a UFC. I don't know if you've checked. It's really hard to be the #1 guy in the world at something. To be the verified world champion at something is difficult. It comes with difficulties. And if you're not in the arena, it's real easy to talk shit. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's real easy to talk shit.
And then we also had on the undercard, we had Linares versus Marcito Hesta. And Hesta at one point was being billed as the next Manny Pacquiao, but he lost one fight. Not 10 fights, one fight. And the world gave up on him 5 years ago. They were like, fuck this guy. He sucks. He's terrible.
Number one thing I wish we could change about boxing.
Yeah.
Number one thing I wish. If a guy loses one time before he is 15-0 or 20-0, he's a fucking bum. He's a washed fighter. He doesn't matter anymore. Like, can we not have projects? Can we not have guys that are going to get better? Is boxing? You know what it does to me when people say that? It undervalues the sport. It undervalues the technical aspect, the beautiful aspect, the amount of knowledge and learning and skill these guys have. Where like, oh, he lost a fight. It's like, yeah, you sometimes lose. It's fucking hard to win.
The way that the boxing media was building this up was, oh, Linares
I'm
is
very it's very clear that I'm like turning socialist over time. Not really, but I'm over here like power to the people, solidarity forever.
But the way the boxing media built it up, they were like, oh, it's Linares making it like just a regular defense. But real boxing heads were like, no. Hesta has a real
Hesta's
shot
tough.
of winning this. This could be an upset. And it was, Linares didn't look as impressive as people thought he would. And that's because Hesta's pretty fucking tough.
Yeah. It's the same thing. I mean, it's a criticism against all sports at all times. It's like you don't understand by perspective. What was it? There was a football team that didn't win a single fucking game this year. You know what I mean?
The Browns.
Browns, yeah. And they're just always bad or whatever.
Yeah.
And it used to be Jacksonville. And, it used to be another team before that. It used to be the Patriots.
Yeah.
For a long time was that team. And now people are like, oh, man, I bet the national champion college team, I bet they could hang pretty well with the Cleveland Browns. Like, no, they would lose 175-0. Are you kidding me? Do you know why all these guys are professionals? Because they were the best at college. Fuck you. People don't understand sometimes how good second place is.
Yeah.
Really, like how good you have to be to even show up. Like, you have to be a fucking maniac.
Yeah.
We locked this guy into a cage. He's a manimal. Come on. Or in this case, we put him into a ring and said, now you two punch each other until one of you is better at doing this.
The announcers were acting like, oh, how come Linares hasn't knocked him out in the second round? It's like, have you seen his record? Have you seen any footage?
You do it, you fat fuck. You Cheeto-fingered motherfucker.
I will say this.
It's literally the equivalent of fat guys online being like, I don't know, that girl's kind of fat. She weighs like 125. Girl's got to have the right proportions for me. Meanwhile, he fucking looks like a fucking. He looks like Jabba the Hutt. He looks. It's unbelievable. Some of the criticism these guys will put on a woman more beautiful than any they've ever seen.
Yeah.
And they'll be like, why can't they look more like the girls in Sailor Moon? Come on, this is bullshit. It's the same exact guy.
I will say this. I think Showtime does a better job. I think Paulie Malignaggi
Of showing Sailor Moon?
of
That's the one show where like as long I can get as nerdy as I want. If I'm not to the Sailor Moon level, I'm all right.
You're doing good.
If I'm under Sailor Moon, I'm all right. That's okay. I heard it. I heard it.
Yeah.
As soon
I
as
thought you were gonna go there.
As soon as I said it, I heard it. I apologize. Continue.
But I think Showtime does a better job of not criticizing the fighters as much. I feel like Mauro Ranallo and Paulie Malignaggi and Al Bernstein do a very great job of kind of keeping it neutral.
Absolutely best in the business, Mauro Ranallo.
And the Sky Sports guys. Whenever I can watch a fight with the British commentary, I prefer the British commentary.
Dope. I love it.
Yeah. And the fight that I think was the fight of the weekend was Usyk versus Briedis. It was from the World Boxing Super Series.
Actually, real quick, before we get into that, you know who these announcers should learn from?
Us.
Us, first of all, pay us to do it. I apologize that I'm coughing, by the way. I do apologize. Third, they should literally, I'm not exaggerating, they should listen to WWE announcers. Because WWE announcers at all times have to get both guys over. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, you can't really be like, you should never pay to watch the bad guy. You should only pay to watch. No, they're like, both these guys are amazing. They're both the best in the world. Like, at all times. Because they want you to keep watching. That's who they should learn from. Briedis fight. Go.
And Mauro Ranallo started in pro wrestling, so maybe that's
perfect. He is still in pro wrestling. He still announces for the WWE.
And he killed it at NXT this past weekend.
He's the best.
Yeah.
Oh my god, how good was that card? Oh my god, it was so good. That was the most exciting thing this weekend.
Yeah, to be honest, that's what I was looking forward to the most.
and it fucking
main
delivered.
event.
Oh, 5
geez.
stars or no? It's like right under, right?
It's right under.
It's so close, but it's not quite.
And Velveteen Dream is really advancing. He's looking phenomenal, but still a little sloppy.
Tacoma Park, 22-year-old in the WWE's developmental system. I think he will be the first black WWE champion, not counting The Rock. There's never been one. Isn't that crazy?
Well, there hasn't been one, has there?
No, there's been world heavyweight champions, but the WWE champion is a little different.
Yeah.
And there's been like Indian guys and like a ton of Samoans and all this stuff, but there's never been a black one.
Yeah.
Crazy.
True.
Continue.
It's crazy.
Stay woke.
They never gave Booker T.
No, they gave him the world heavyweight belt, but they
Yeah.
didn't give him the WWE belt. Mark Henry too.
Ah.
I know.
Yeah,
Fucked
they
up.
kept giving them the second
The other
tier
one,
show,
right?
yeah.
Like the one that's like it's almost as good,
It's
and
just
it
as
is
good.
almost as good,
Yeah.
but
It's
it's not
separate
as
but
good.
equal.
Yeah, literally.
But but I think the other one is the more prestigious belt.
It is absolutely. That's the one that's like through Bruno Sammartino and
Yeah.
Hulk Hogan and like Shawn Michaels and
Yeah.
Stone Cold Steve Austin. That belt has never been held by a black guy except The Rock, if you want to count him. But I think he would shade a little closer to Samoan. This is so
Yeah.
fucking off topic. I apologize. I stopped boxing talk to do this. I apologize.
You know, there's a couple characters in WWE. Well, I'll get off of it.
No, please. I want to hear
I'll
this.
say because the Rikishi, I've seen like the worst storylines ever, and Rikishi saying that he ran over Stone Cold Steve Austin.
I did it
because
for The Rock. I
I thought that was great. The fact that he felt that like Superfly Snuka and so many other Samoans should have got title shots and they never did.
Yeah.
Well, no, but the reason they did that was okay. That's a good idea. But it was, I remember this, it was executed so badly. Stone Cold got run over, and they were trying to figure out who did it, and they were like, oh, it couldn't have been Rikishi. We have him on video over here doing something else. And then 3 weeks later, they came back like, actually, it was Rikishi. Because they clearly, like, they were going to make it Triple H, but then they were like, oh, no, shit. We have Triple H, like, in the ring when it happened. Like, it couldn't have been him. Fuck.
I remember that. That's
And then they were like, oh, Triple H hired him. Continue.
Yeah, so Briedis versus Usyk was from the World Boxing Super Series. It was a great fight. Everyone expected Usyk to win. No one ever thought that it would be as close as it is. It was the biggest boxing fight in Latvia history.
Which is, I mean, so prestigious. I thought that it was a very competitive fight. That was a fight I was really worried when they sent it to the judges that they were going to get it wrong, actually, if I could be honest.
Yeah.
I think they got it right. Usyk did win the fight. It was close. It was competitive. Great showing.
Do you think that people overestimated how good Usyk is or underestimated how good Briedis is?
I think they underestimated Briedis. I think Briedis showed some good adjustments throughout the fight. I think Briedis came in really on it. I think he came in very focused. I think he came in peaked very well. And it was the best Marius Briedis that I've ever seen. I was very impressed with him. I don't think this was Usyk having a bad night. I think it was his opponent rising up and coming very close but not quite getting it.
I agree. I think Briedis really impressed me, and his girl is fucking hot. Sorry, his girl is really, really hot. I don't know.
We did like 25 minutes at the top about like how you might be a black guy. I think you can say fucking. It's okay. Like, we're an R-rated podcast. We've been very clear about that.
If that's what Latvian women look like, I'm about to go and get a cottage there. Like it's
Yeah, no,
fantastic.
there's some East European women. I mean, it's like 90% of the cam model industry is like Eastern
Yeah.
European women. You know what I mean? It's like Eastern Europe and Northern South America.
Mhm.
Is 99% of the cam market right there.
You know what? Let's stick on the topic of boxing. Did you see that Showtime announced 9 amazing cards with PBC?
They just went on a full. It was like an Oprah day. You know what I
Yes.
mean? Where she's just like, you're getting this and you're getting that, and we're waxing everyone's assholes.
So this is a topic that we're gonna call. We're gonna grade it. We're gonna grade it like back in high school when they used to, from A to E, or D.
All right. No, I mean
We'll go F. We'll go
we'll
all
go
the way. We'll go from A to F.
A through F. A
through
through F.
F.
I'm not counting the E. I go A, B, C, D, F.
Yeah, we'll go A, B, C, D, F. Okay.
F for fail. Fuck you.
So
Yo,
February.
by the way, I coach little kids now. They fucking hand me, and this is not like, oh my God, schools are making them weak. I don't believe that. But when they hand me these report cards, I have no fucking idea what I'm looking at.
No.
Marcus, you have a child. You know what I'm talking about.
I don't know what
They
that
hand me a thing. I'm like, I don't know what the fuck a P stands for. You must have fucked up because I used to get C's and D's. This is a P? You went all the way down the alphabet to a P? You can't bring me home a K? You need to up this to at least an H, kid. Listen to me. This down. You got to bring this up.
That's Montgomery County for you. I went through that system
PG
when
County, too.
elementary
There's a
school.
lot of them.
You get O's for outstanding.
Yeah.
And I remember I brought a report card and it had O's, and I got the ass whooping of my lifetime. I heard
They
my
look like zeros. They look too much like zeros.
And then afterwards, after you whoop some ass, you got to talk shit. So my mom was on the phone with my aunt talking about, this kid is so dumb. He brought a report card. He didn't even get A's. He didn't even get B's. He got O's. Like, how?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Fucking unbelievable.
I was like, it was outstanding.
I did my best.
They don't believe you.
Oh, it sounds like bullshit. It completely sounds like bullshit.
Is this factual?
This is factual. This
Is
actually
this
happened.
like, you know what happened to me the other day? Like,
So,
people do those stories, and sometimes there's like a factual thing. It's like when you see somebody wearing a Rolex in the movie Gladiator. You know what I mean? Like, okay, this is like this something here doesn't add up. There's literally comedians all here. I'm not gonna name names. Let's, for the point of the story, say their name is something crazy like Mickey Coachella. Who I think this guy is so high. I hear this guy do his bits, and he's like, so I was meeting this guy the other day at the Twin Towers, and I'm like, wait, where were you meeting him? Like, he has these little things in his stories that like, oh, this happened 20 years ago.
Yeah.
This is nowhere near anything. So I was meeting this one guy, and Reagan was president, right? And
It's like, when did you write this?
when did you write new material, dude? Come on. What are you doing?
card number 1, February 17th, we have Brandon Rios versus Danny Garcia. And on the undercard, we have the rematch between David Benavidez and Ronald Garvin.
Ooh, I am into David Benavidez. I like the main event. Garcia is the A side. He's not the strongest A side we've ever seen, but Brandon Rios is still very good.
It's Mexico versus Puerto Rico. The one problem.
When is it?
This is on February 17th.
February 17th. Okay, so I wanted to make sure it wasn't like a big weekend or something.
Well, you know what? I feel like they made a dork card for people who won't be on dates for Valentine's Day.
yeah, right. A boxing head card.
Yeah.
Listen, you can watch Sailor Moon and you can watch this Danny Garcia fight and have a fucking great weekend.
Because, only somebody who isn't getting laid is into David Benavidez.
Yes, absolutely.
Like, I was when I wasn't getting laid. I was 100% all. I was sending you stuff, and I was like, hey, did you see the highlights I sent you of this new young kid? He's the youngest boxing champion.
And I
you
was
were
like, no, I'm fucking a yoga teacher now. I really don't have time for this. I apologize.
I was like, dude, please watch it. He's so good. I haven't seen any David Benavidez cards.
And as suddenly, as a girlfriend, it's hard for us to find time to record a show.
There you go.
You start dating a Brazilian woman, and shit, I can't get a hold of Jessie. Fuck. I gotta bomb her car or something. I don't know. Okay.
So how do we grade this?
I'm gonna give that B minus C plus territory.
B minus. Okay,
Yeah.
I'll follow up with B minus. I think it's a B minus card because you just don't get excited about it. You know, you have a good time watching it because the Garvin versus
It's not enough A side, right? If
Not
we're
enough
being
A
honest,
side.
there's not enough A side. There's really good. Any of those guys is an awesome, awesome B side, but they're just not quite A sides yet. What's next?
So we have March 3rd. We have Deontay Wilder versus Luis Ortiz, with the undercard being
No holds
Charlo
barred.
getting an
Wait.
interim middleweight.
Charlo is the co-main?
Yes.
Lions only?
Lions only Charlo. The middleweight Charlo.
What? That's ridiculous. Keep going.
Yeah, he's gonna fight against.
This is the one who, like, with the crazy knockouts, right?
He's fighting Hugo Centeno Jr., who has he's from Argentina. He's got a good record. He's been #1 contender for a long time, but he has no name value. But the reason that Charlo is fighting him for the interim belt is because we have Triple G versus Canelo. So one of those belts, he has to get the interim belt because he was due for a title shot
Right.
before that fight got made.
Okay, so what do I grade that? Love Deontay Wilder, very strong A side. Really like Luis Ortiz, very strong B side. Charlo. The promise of a knockout on this undercard is also very strong, and I love that. I'm gonna give this honestly B plus.
I give
maybe
this an A.
This might be an A. I
Yeah,
feel like this is an A.
This is an A.
This is an A card.
Even if you didn't give me Charlo, it's still an A.
Yeah, right. I mean, come on. We've been waiting for that heavyweight fight for so long. That's an A.
Yeah. So March 10th, we have Mikey Garcia versus Lipinets.
By the way, Mikey Garcia, I was at jiu-jitsu practice recently, and people were bringing up Mikey Garcia. Mikey Garcia is starting to seep through.
Wow.
Interesting, right? Isn't it weird? Like, I bring up to you, like, who's, like, actually seeping through to the public, and you never believe it. Like, he tried to tell me, like, nobody knows who Deontay Wilder is. I called him my little brother. I was like, name the only boxer you can think of. He's like, Deontay Wilder?
I mean, that's weird. Like,
It is weird. Yeah. No, it's very weird.
Because, like, in the boxing world, I can think of other people who are bigger, but, like, once they creep into the mainstream.
He's on ESPN. He gets ESPN and how to get on there and how to talk when you're on there and how to connect with people. And I think that's very important.
And the co-main event is Bartholomew versus Relic.
Give me that main event again. I'm sorry.
It's Lipinets. Sergey Lipinets versus Mikey Garcia.
Some guy versus Mikey Garcia. Okay.
That was the Russian guy who was going to stop. He was going to court because he wanted to stop the unification between Crawford and Ndongo.
Yeah.
Because he was the number one contender for Ndongo's belt. But then he
yeah,
lost in court.
They were like, okay, good luck with that. Yeah, for sure we'll stop this Terrence Crawford fight for you. Okay, real quick.
So he ended up getting the vacant belt when Crawford moved up. And he's going to defend it against Mikey Garcia. So this will give Mikey Garcia another weight class for him to be champion in.
Okay, what else is on that?
The other one is Bartholomew versus Relic, too.
Man, this isn't good. This isn't solid, right? This is like C-D territory.
Yeah.
Like, I'm not
You
feeling
can
this
skip
at all.
this card.
You can skip that. I mean, catch the highlights, see what Mikey did, but that's a D. Give me a D.
I mean, the Relic versus Bartholomew, I guess, was a fun card. But
I
no one
said,
cared.
Jesse, to give me the D, okay? Can you just give it to me?
I give a D, too. I think it's D. So April 7th, we have, I think this is, you know what, I'm going to give my score before I announce it. This is an A-plus card.
Oh, shit.
I'm telling you, this is A-plus. So we have Eryk Lara versus
Well, if you're just
Jarrett
like
Hurd.
Clarissa Shields versus, no.
So we have Eryk Lara unifying the super middleweight.
Wait, for Eryk Lara to be getting this A+, I'm really skeptical.
The
That's the first name out of your mouth is Eryk Lara, who turned in one of the worst fights I've ever seen in his last fight.
Yeah, but he's fighting the guy who put on one of the best fights that we saw on the exact same card from PG County, Jarrett Swift Hurd in a unification fight.
Oh, Jarrett Hurd's not in boring fights, whatever you want to say.
And he's so much bigger. When they did the face-off in the press conference, he's so much bigger than Eryk Lara. They look like he's two weight classes above.
Crazy.
And on the undercard, we have the other Charlo, the super welterweight Charlo, defending against Saddam Ali in a unification fight with the two winners fighting later on in the year to crown the undisputed super welterweight champion.
Okay, that's very interesting. And knowing that, I love tournaments. Loving the Bellator tournament that's going on right now, by the way. Big congrats to Chael Sonnen. I like this, but this is not an A+ to me. This is not an A+.
Why is it not an A+?
This is not an A+. Saddam Ali is where's my A side? First of all,
Charlo.
I mean, at the bottom, I guess, but it's not even you're not even the A side Charlo. Like, come on, you're not even the best.
He's the
you're
one
not
who
even the most exciting Charlo.
He's the one who trains with Errol Spence.
Great, he can go fucking train with Errol Spence all he wants. But the other one is fucking knocking people out and making it look easy. I mean, so is he, but it's a little. It's not quite the same.
This is the one who got knockout of the year versus Lubin.
This is a B. This is a B.
Wait,
this is the one who knocked out Lubin?
Yeah.
Oh shit, then this is a B+. But I still don't give it an A.
Okay.
Lions only.
Confusing.
Lions only. Listen, I mixed up two Charlos. I apologize.
This isn't Lions only, but he still shouts out
Listen,
Lions
the two
only.
Charlo brothers look alike to me. I don't know if that's problematic or racist, but they look very much alike to me.
April 21st, we see the return of Omar Figueroa versus Adrian the Problem Broner, with Gervonta Davis in the undercard against the dreaded and vicious to be announced.
Do you think they put Gervonta Davis on this? Like, look at Broner. Look at what could happen if you don't fucking act right. Look at what could happen if you don't fucking straighten up and act right. You make weight, don't fuck around or you're going to end up exactly like Adrian Broner, 28 and washed. This is a C.
I forget how young he is.
I know, right? He's like my age. He's not 30. I know that.
Yeah.
He's not 30. This is a C. This is a C. Broner's got a little name value. Gervonta Davis, let's see what fight that happens to be. It's a C.
Figueroa's an impressive fighter, but he looked team soft body last time we saw him.
What are you trying to say? Just because I'm the team captain of Team Soft Body, what are you trying to say?
He had the ultimate dad bod.
He did. It was bad. It was really
I
bad.
mean, he still was vicious and he still got the knockout, but it was.
He really is. It's almost a perfect fight for Broner in that, like, I could see Broner winning that. You know what I mean? Like, I could see Broner fucking up and winning that. So it's still
Broner
exciting.
is officially the Zab Judah of this generation.
He is. Great pick.
Although I heard a boxing writer say he's not Zab Judah because Zab Judah sold pay-per-views.
That's a good line. Whoever wrote that fucking earned their paycheck that day. That was Zab Judah. Check the byline. Z Judah.
So May 19th, we have Keith Thurman returning, the king of the welterweights, returning to defend his title against Jesse Vargas.
Not an easy return fight for a guy who's been out a year.
Let me wait for the. You haven't heard the co-main event, sir. The co-main event is Adonis Stevenson.
By the way, that was rude.
Adonis Stevenson is defending his belt against the former king of the super middleweights, Badu Jack.
Ooh, actually an interesting fight for Adonis Stevenson.
It's
that's an A. That's an A, just to see what Adonis Stevenson does against a guy like Badu Jack. You know what I mean? Oh, my God. He's been fighting YMCA fighters for so long. Like, I feel like
5 years since he fought.
We've forgotten what he looks like against good fighters. What if he comes out and he just fucking stoles him in the first round? Just puts him just, like, to bed, right? With, like, 3-punch combo.
He is a lot bigger than Badu.
I mean, but Badu Jack is so fast. He's so good.
He's so good.
That's an A just to see what happens to Adonis.
You almost forgot that Keith Thurman's on there, don't you?
I know, right? Like, Keith Thurman, I do want to see what happens with Keith Thurman. It's almost like they're both coming off injuries. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, Stevenson is coming off of a big balls injury, and we have an elbow injury for Thurman.
June 9th, we have the rematch, the Battle for L.A. Part 2, Abner Mars versus Leo Santa Cruz.
Is there anything on the undercard, or is it just that?
The undercard is the winner of Charlo versus Ali versus the winner of Laura versus Hurd.
Ooh, that's an A. That's an A. That's an A. That's great boxing. That's
Yeah.
just great boxing all night. That's just great boxing. I'm into that.
And then June 16, we have Errol Spence Jr. versus mandatory challenger Carlos Ocampo. And a rumor is that Showtime's not too proud of it either, so they're promising fans, like, hey, we're going to build up the undercard.
Okay, talk to me. What's the undercard right now? It's a fail.
But this is one of those where, like, it's like the IBF, right? They do a great job of making you fight your mandatory. And, I mean, we saw that because that's the reason why guys like Kell Brook got titles. That's the reason why Errol Spence got a title.
That's true.
And that's the reason why Sean Porter became, a big name. But that's also given us some, like,
Some boring fights or
some terrible fights.
Some terrible fights and just some quick knockouts.
Yeah.
Which is not always the worst thing.
Because it's like if you've earned the right and you've done everything to be to be the number one contender, they grant you the title shot, and they don't honor rematch clauses, and they don't honor what's it called? But they don't honor anything.
Listen, if you're the number one contender, you're the number one contender.
Yeah,
They're
yeah,
not
that's
gonna
basically
fuck
how it is.
around.
That's how basically it is.
There's no McGregor rules here, where it's just like, you know what? I'd really like to fight for the heavyweight title.
Money
next
fights.
year.
That's what I mean. Like
Yeah.
a money fight. Like this will make more money than this, so we should do this fight.
Yeah, like if Floyd Mayweather came in, they would be like, "Oh my God!" In like 2 fights, we're gonna get you for the title. Like, come on, it's gonna be great. You know, but it honestly kind of is, and I love it. I wish every company did that, and I think that they should be applauded for that. We do have to recognize that does mean we're gonna get some fights like this once in a while. So be it. So be it. Spencer's gonna beat that ass. In terms of like my excitement, that's a D-.
Yeah, it's a D-. But hopefully they build up the undercard between now and then, and we get something good at the bottom. Maybe we get Thurman. No, Thurman fight's too close.
Something.
But we'll get something. Maybe
the
Sean
fact
Porter.
that they're already getting out in front of it and saying like, "Hey, listen, we know we fucked up." Like that's encouraging.
Yeah, Sean Porter maybe might fight that
True.
night.
Hey, that'd be great.
I'm still mad that Sean Porter's not fighting Danny Garcia.
That would be a good fight. Who's Danny Garcia fighting? I know we said it earlier.
Brandon Rios.
Oh yeah, Brandon Rios. Yeah, Porter's a better fight. But Danny Garcia's been taking very tough fights. I'm kind of fine with him, back.
I don't like the fact that you have these 3 guys all calling out Keith Thurman, but none of them are fighting each other for the right to fight Keith Thurman.
I get that, and I agree with that. But all of them right now, why take that much risk when you can call out Thurman? Maybe you get the Thurman fight, and you didn't have to fight anybody else. And Thurman is this wounded tiger with all the money right now. I mean, whoever fights Thurman, it's a big money fight for them. Why would you go out of your way to go fight somebody else right now? You should just take easy fights and try to get Thurman.
The only person who's calling someone who's not Thurman out is Crawford. He wants to fight Spence next. But because of political and like stuff that's happening, and possibly the fact that Thurman versus Spence is going to happen first.
Oh, for a second, I thought you were saying, like, because we're building the wall. Or, like, I didn't know what politics you meant for a second.
No, boxing politics. So he's on ESPN. They're on Showtime. He's with Top Rank. They're with PBC. So just because of that, it looks like it's targeted for 2019. So it's going to be Spence's big 2019 fight because they're trying to get the Thurman fight first.
We'll see what happens with that. I totally understand that all these guys are just trying to call out Keith Thurman because he's coming off an injury and he has the belt. He has the #1 ranking in the world, and he is, he hasn't fought in over a year, and he's going to look a little sloppy when he does, probably.
Absolutely dangerous fight.
Super dangerous. Anybody right now against Keith Thurman, I mean, it's tough to favor Keith Thurman against anybody else in the top 5.
You had some MMA announcements also.
Oh, MMA announcements, man. We're getting some champion versus champion fights. We got one that's definitely confirmed, and then we have 2 more that look like they're on deck. The 2 that are on deck are Demetrius Mighty Mouse Johnson against TJ Dillashaw, 135-pound champion.
Fight. Are we grading these 2?
We can grade them, yeah.
That's an A.
That's an A fight.
That's an A+.
I mean, I think all these are A fights, if I'm being honest. If I'm just going to grade them right now. How about this? At the end, let's rank them. Bronze, silver, gold. How about that? Because it's 3. So we have that. We have Amanda Nunes versus Cyborg, Chris Cyborg Santos. Maybe the first serious motherfucker that Chris Cyborg is going to fight in the UFC. That's not fair. She's fought some. Okay. Holly Holm. And then the third fight is confirmed, and that is the heavyweight champion of the world, Stipe Miocic, fresh off of completely washing out Francis Ngannou. He's taking on Daniel D.C. Cormier, the 205-pound champion. This is the only one confirmed. It's going to be, I think, only the 3rd ever champion versus champion fight in the UFC. The first one was GSP versus BJ Penn. Second one, Eddie Alvarez versus Conor McGregor. And now we're going to have this. This is a big fucking deal for a lot of reasons. One, because it's just an amazing fight.
Wait a minute. Is that happening before Amanda Nunes versus Cyborg?
That's not confirmed yet. They're still going back and forth in the negotiations. Okay. They've both agreed to it on Twitter. And so it seems likely that it'll happen. When a champion wants to fight somebody, usually that's the person they end up fighting. You know what I mean? But it's still, they got to get the contracts right. When are we going to fight? What weight are we going to fight? There's a lot of moving parts that go into that. Chris Cyborg Santos, for some reason, doesn't understand any of that. She's like, no, she said she would fight me. Why don't I have the contract in front of me right now? No, you're in the fight business. You don't just show up to a fucking alleyway with a pipe. Okay, it's go time. We both said on Twitter.
That's a solid Christine
said,
Cyborg.
Let's go.
Yeah, right. Drop a pin. Where you at? Drop a pin. Let's go. Bullshit. So just first blush, bronze, silver, gold on those. Keeping in mind, of course, that for the TJ-DJ fight, TJ Dillashaw is going to drop down to 125 pounds against DJ Mighty Mouse Johnson.
Okay. I'll say Stipe versus Cormier is gold. That's 1. Silver would be DJ versus TJ. And bronze would be Cyborg versus Nunes.
See, I'm actually going to switch your bronze and your silver. I think that because of the weight cut, it's going to be really, really because every other fight, somebody's moving up. And that's normally what happens in champion versus champion fights when they do happen. Somebody moves up. Let me go up to the next highest weight class, see what the champion there has. For a guy who's the #1 in the world at 135 pounds, and you've seen TJ at these weigh-ins, there's not an ounce of fat on his entire body.
Yeah.
You couldn't take off another 2 pounds. Well, he's going to do 10 more. And he's going to make weight, too, at 125. Not 126, not catch weight. I don't like that. I think that is dangerous. And just that weight cut alone will take time off of his life. He will live less because of that fight. And that really bums me out. I think they should bump up, at least meet in the middle.
Yeah.
Catch weight 130. And then I like catch weight fights for
super fights.
Yeah, for these big super fights for champion versus champion to kind of give, because okay, what fucking TJ Dillashaw is gonna get knocked out or tapped out in this fight and then try to go back up to 135 and we have to sell pay-per-views with him. That's something I wanted to point out with all this. I love these fight announcements, but I get so nervous because it sounds desperate by the UFC. You know what I mean? That the only stars they have are champions, are people who hold belts. And anyone who's not holding a belt is not a star. And it's part of the business model that they're not going to make stars. The star is the UFC. The UFC is bigger than any person. You know what I mean? There's no star bigger than the UFC except for the one that they made, called Conor McGregor, by accident. And so I just get nervous that this means, like, we're not going to have any bullets left in the chamber after we shoot this off. Do you understand what I'm saying? So hopefully that's not the case, but this to me is kind of almost like the culmination of the WME purchase, where they're just like, fuck it, find all the biggest fights we can make them right now, and we'll figure out everything else later.
Stipe versus Cormier, Stipe versus Demetrius Johnson, Stipe versus
It's
the
coming.
Lion.
It's coming. If you don't think Luke Rockhold is going to win that 185-pound belt and bump up to heavyweight to fight Stipe, you're out of your mind. It's going to happen because they're just going, they're going to sign these contracts to these people. How much money would it take to make you bump up to 205 to fight the champion there? We'll do that much money, and then you can do it again as soon as there's new champions. You know what I mean? It's going to turn into this really weird landscape that I don't think I like.
How long do you think it'll take for MMA to reach the popularity it had 2 years ago?
A long time, considering the popularity is going down. We're not trending up. I think the hottest year is probably like 2014. If I had to look at everything considered, like 2014 seems
I think 15 was huge. The
2015
rise
was
of Conor,
also that was also really big. That's a great point. Loved all
the
of
height
that.
of Conor, I think, was 16. 2016 with the DS fights.
Yeah, that second DS fight is the hottest Conor's ever
Yeah.
been. How long is it going to take to get back there? I mean, I think, if you make a couple smart decisions, you get the right people going, you can do it in a couple of years. I don't think it's going to take as long as we realize, because you have to remember, a guy like Conor McGregor went from out of the UFC and not a UFC level fighter to world champion in 2.5 years. And he was the biggest star in the world in 2.5 years. Shit can change really fast in MMA.
Yeah.
It's all going to come down to that front office. What's our TV contract look like? How often are people seeing us? Are we able to control what fights we're making, or are we just making fights because we need big fights? We need money fights right now. Or are we making the smart fights that are going to invest long term in people? If they're just making these big money fights and shooting off, loads every single chance we see, every time we see a pair of tits, then no, you're never going to get there.
Speaking of investing long term, we have fights this weekend.
We do have fights
for
this
the
weekend.
long term. So, want to start with boxing or MMA? Because we only have one boxing fight.
We only really have one MMA fight, if I'm being honest. Let's start with the UFC, because we've been talking about UFC. Lyoto Machida is back, hasn't secured a win since 2013, I believe, December of 2013. He is looking.
The Machida era has begun.
I know, and he immediately started losing. One of the most famous calls of all time, also complete bullshit. He has lost 4 out of his last 5, I believe, 3 in a row now, including his last one. He came off of a steroid suspension and got knocked out in the first round by Mr. Killer Be Killed, Eryk Brunson. So apparently Machida was not able to pick up on that famous rush that Eryk Brunson does at the beginning of every fight, even though that's what Machida used to do. You know what I mean? Machida used to be that in-and-out distance fighter who understood the angles and the distance better than anybody. I think Machida's in a lot of fucking trouble here. He's fighting a guy named Eryk Anders, who's 10-0. He's a power striker with a little bit of accuracy. He's he's a pretty good striker, and he's got a pretty good sprawl on him. I still think there's a lot of holes in this game that could be exploited, but I think this is just going to be a story of we're going to sit back here next week, fire up the mics, and say, fuck, Lyoto Machida cannot fight anymore.
Wow.
I mean, I'm saying it. I think the Machida era is done.
I think it's been done.
It's been done, right?
When he lost to Yoel Romero.
That was bad, right? That was time to really hang him up and
tell
say,
him to
hey, what
quit,
are we doing?
yeah.
This is done. Do you think that have you seen any Eryk Anders fights? He's only had 2 fights in the UFC.
I've not seen Eryk Anders.
So he's had 2 fights in the UFC. He knocked out Rafael Natal and retired him. I think he's going to be able to pick up a knockout win this weekend.
Wow.
He's got a dynamic striking game. He might be able to pick up a cool knockout. We'll see, but I don't feel good about this style matchup. And it feels like when the UFC wants you to retire, they put you up against a guy like Eryk Anders, who has no name and tons of power.
They got to build up new stars.
Something. There's a couple other fights on that card that are like okay if people want to look through the card, but that's the only one you really need to know about.
In boxing, and this one here, saying this all to our fans overseas and in other places that are not the United States, our friends.
There's dozens of you.
Yeah.
There's dozens.
All our fans in Canada, tune in to the World Boxing Super Series, which is not being picked up by any TV network, where we're gonna see who's gonna face Alexander Usyk. It's gonna fight between Junior Dorticos versus Moret Gassiev.
There you go. You fucking got both of them. Fuck yeah. Fuck yeah.
And this is a phenomenal fight. This is a great fight. I would have to say that if I have to choose who the better fighter is, it's Gassiev. But Dr. KO knocks everyone out. He's got a 98% knockout ratio.
I know. Since this Super Series has started up, I would say Dorticos is probably like the revelation coming out of it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, I didn't know about him going in, but now I'm so in love with him. Who hits this hard? What human being hits as hard as Dorticos?
And he's fast.
And he's fast and he's pretty technical. He's a good fucking boxer. And Jesse Rivas, he's going to pick up the knockout win this weekend.
You think he's going to be Gassiev?
I think he's going to be Gassiev.
I think it's a matter of time.
Right? Oh, my God. There's no way. I mean, Gassiev has a couple of holes. You know, Russian fighters do tend to take some punishment in their fights. You don't tend to see a lot of quote-unquote clean fights. And I don't mean like fouls or anything, but just in general.
They get hit.
They get hit. They're going to take some damage. They're going to get their chin touched. And if you get your chin touched against Dorticos, you're going to get put to sleep.
When Dorticos made it into this round, he had a face against Krudashov. And that was one of those fights where the world was excited of the fact that both of them had 96, 98% knockout ratios.
Both had it was like one non-knockout win between both of them.
And when they were fighting, it was just about the speed. One guy hits really hard, but the other guy hits really hard, but a lot faster.
Yes.
And he got to the chin and produced an amazing knockout. And he's looking forward to do that against Gassiev.
I think he's going to. I love Gassiev. This is not a knock on Gassiev, but just traditionally when I look at the tape, I don't see any way that this fight is not a knockout win for Dorticos unless, I'm just really, really overvaluing where Dorticos' whole game is.
But you know what the thing is the reason...
I think he could be a real player on the world scene.
Yeah. There's a huge fan base for Gassiev. He's got a lot of fans. But in Florida, where Dorticos lives, they don't even show the fights in America.
I know, it's so fucked
So
up.
he could just walk the streets. It's no big deal.
That's not a good thing. Yo, I always hear celebrities talk about that, like, man, it's just nice once in a while, I go over to Europe or something, I'm able to just walk around. It's like, okay, I would rather have the $20 billion that comes with everybody knowing my name.
True
How terrible would it be if Dorticos wins the World's Boxing Super Series and then just goes to, like, Arby's afterwards? Because it's like there's no celebration in America, no parade, no big...
Nobody would give a shit. People in his gym would throw him a little thing, I bet. And that's
he'd
it.
probably get, like, some cheesecake. They'll go to Cheesecake Factory afterwards and hang out.
Yeah, he might, and I say this with all seriousness. Winning the World Boxing Super Series, an incredibly tough tournament filled with...
A $50 million tournament.
$50 million tournament filled with nothing but motherfuckers, right? Everybody in this tournament is a difficult person to beat. They're all grown-ass men who've trained their whole lives for this. He might knock out every single one of them. He might get a blowjob out of it. You know what I mean?
He will be wealthy, though. He will have a lot of money.
He will have a lot of money, and he can turn that into some fun times. But just doing it by yourself, like, you should be able to, like... Is it even a real sport if winning a world championship doesn't get you blown? Maybe that should be like the test if something is a sport.
Usyk actually made a prediction, and Usyk said he's already preparing. He thinks Dorticos is going to win.
I'm right there with him.
But a lot of boxing writers said this is 50-50, but I agree with Usyk, and I think that this is going to be a Dorticos fight. But definitely tune in if you can.
Absolutely.
If you live in America, watch it illegally on YouTube. They're not going to take it down because we don't get it anyway. It's been frustrating all of us to be able to
NBC is not going to hop in like, oh, that's actually ours. Like, no, nobody has it. It's nobody's.
It's going to be free online, so catch it on YouTube Saturday night, a couple of hours after it happens.
Okay.
We're going to get another one of those emails like, actually, legally speaking, that's not correct. You shouldn't be telling people that. Like, fuck off.
Do you remember
I don't care.
Do you remember when the World Boxing Super Series tried to be nice and they were like, oh, America doesn't get it, so let's put it on for free?
Yeah.
And then right as the dude was going to get knocked out, it cut off and
fucked up.
Yeah, the
cock
connection.
tease.
Yeah.
Total cock tease. I do remember that was fucked up. But this has been a very fun tournament. Jesse, do you have anything else for the people this week?
Yes, I will be opening for TK Kirkland at the Baltimore Comedy Factory this Friday when this releases.
Hey, fuck yeah. Good for you, Jesse
Awesome.
Rivas. Parabens. For myself, people can catch me online. Look at my Twitter account, @BadTweetist. Marcus, put yourself over.
Oh, we got the Comedy Podcast. We have
100
our 100th
episodes.
episode coming up
Congratulations.
Yeah.
this week, live on Facebook. So find the Comedy Podcast on Facebook. You'll see us live this week.
DOTCOMEDY. Everybody should check that out, our sister podcast. For all of us here at the Fighters Block, we'll be back next week here on The Block.